how to get full coverage finish without that cakey feeling. All right, guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Sami George, and I teach natural looking makeup to women with real skin. And today we are back in our Seint brush series, and we are talking about our full coverage brush. This is the buff brush. Now, here's the thing. In order to get full coverage, it is more than just putting on more makeup. So if you want to see how to get a flawless, full coverage look that doesn't feel cakey, tacky, or heavy, this video is for you. As always, please like and subscribe so you don't miss a thing, and thanks for being here. This is part 3 of our brush series, and in our brush series, we're breaking down what's the best brush for you, and maybe that changes based on the coverage level that you're looking for, but the one we're talking about today is the buff brush. And this guy right here is a little dated. This brush is about 3 years old because our brushes last forever, so yours will have more of this sleek golden finish. This is our two-tone brush with two-tone bristles. But either way, this is the buff brush. It is double-ended, as they all are, and it works very, very well for getting medium to full coverage fast. But I am gonna tell you, based on my experience, both with myself and with my clients, it's more than just putting on more makeup to get full coverage. As a matter of fact, it's actually a combination of a little bit less makeup that's gonna give you better coverage. So let me explain. Okay, with this makeup, you will be matched to anywhere between 3 and 4 colors. 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's what will make up your foundation. It's a combination of highlights and contours. Typically, the one that's closest to your skin, a contour that appropriately matches whether or not you have redness or certain undertones, and as your Seint artist, I'll take care of all of knowing that for you, and then a brightener shade, a color that you're gonna put in your typical T-zone area underneath the eye to create a light and bright look without emphasizing texture. Because I don't know about you, but as we're entering that 40+ range, texture is a real concern, which is why it's incredibly important that if you are looking for a full coverage look with Seint and you feel like what you're doing right now is emphasizing your texture or forcing you to wear a ton of product, the key is to incorporate a color corrector. And I will swear by a color corrector. It's absolutely what changed my makeup entirely. When I was originally matched to Seint, I didn't have a color corrector. I didn't even have the correct shades. And once I incorporated a color corrector and the right shade with my color corrector, total game changer. In this series, we are breaking down how to get a full face of application with just the brush, our finger, and our perfector sponge. So I am gonna stick to that today. While I do think for the most flawless finish with a full coverage look, there are some good tools to incorporate over time as you build up your brush collection. The ones that I would incorporate along with the buff brush are going to be the detail brush and the blush and bronzer brush. And here's why. The detail brush is gonna have this small end. This is going to be great for color correcting these areas where you see this increased depth of color. If you don't match the darkest points of your face first with a dark camouflage color correcting shade, over time, the makeup is gonna break up. You're not gonna have the longevity that you're looking for, and it's going to force you to put on a whole lot of your neutral main shade in order to get any coverage. And again, that coverage won't last. So while we are just going to use one brush, in lieu of this small end, today I'm gonna use my finger. I also love the detail brush because I think it is the absolute easiest brush to learn to contour with. It has this knife edge, which is really great for hugging that cheekbone. It just takes the guesswork out of contour. So I think overall, this brush in general is an absolute must as you build up your brush collection, but I would incorporate it when you have the opportunity with this look. In the meantime, we will just use this smaller end to contour with today. The other brush that I would grab is the blush and bronzer brush when putting this look together. And in general, it's my favorite. I think you can do so much with it. It's the first brush that we went over in our brush series, but let me explain why. The reason why this brush here, the buff brush, is the full coverage brush, it's because of the density of the bristles. They are the most dense of all of the brushes that we have that are meant for face application. The denser the brush, the more product it picks up, the heavier the coverage level that you're gonna get. If we're just using one brush, Using this smaller end under the eye is gonna deposit a ton of product, which is again why we're gonna use our finger, or you pick up something like the detail brush. After you're applying your main foundation shade and getting the coverage level that you want, it is going to be a little bit easier to apply a sheer thin layer of a bronzer with this brush. Do you see the difference in the density of the bristles? Obviously, this is much more light and fluffy. It's gonna give more of a wash of color, which is just simpler to apply your bronzer with. Same thing with this side. We can put our blush on with this, but if you're somebody who doesn't like to put on a ton of blush first and then have to blend it out, something like this that is less dense is just going to be easier from the beginning. However, what we're gonna do to make sure that we diffuse this appropriately is we're gonna use our perfector sponge to blend any excess product that we have on the face. Let's do it. Remember what I said when we started, that in order to get medium to full coverage, it is my belief that if you do not want your makeup to feel heavy or cakey or tacky, that you start with a color corrector. Do you see the difference just that little bit of color correction makes on these dark points of my face? And I am using the smallest amount of product. This is typically what I would use the small end of the detail brush for, but since we are going one brush today, the other tool that we're using is our finger and our perfector. So I am picking up the smallest amount of product and I am simply tapping on anywhere that I see that increased color on the face. So for me, that is these acne spots, the rosacea that you see along this area, any darkness under the eye. Again, have a little bit of an acne breakout here. The darkest point on my face is typically this redness that I have on my chin and the area around my nose. So simply tapping on this light layer is going to be the game changer of how you can get medium to full coverage without ever feeling like your makeup looks unnatural or is super heavy. My color corrector is on, so now we're gonna move on to our main shade. And when you use a color corrector, it is the combination of your color corrector and your main shade, if you're matched by me, that's going to be the closest to your natural skin tone and take care of the darkness that you have on your face. We can't expect a lighter color. So this may be my jawline color naturally, but it doesn't have as much depth as the under eyes and the redness and the acne and the scarring did. So it is the combination. So when you are applying, it's color corrector first, this main highlight shade on top of that. And to do that, we are going to use our buff brush. And I'm gonna show you one of the most common mistakes that people make in general, regardless of brush, is instead of pressing the brush onto the product, they swipe it in. If you swipe this brush into the product, there will be chunks on the end, and that is way, way, way too much makeup, even if you want full coverage. It is always press, and do you see how much makeup that picked up by that one little press there? Let me show you how different that is than, say, the shape brush. And this is truly why when you are looking for a different coverage level, you don't need new products. You just need a new brush and application style, because this is how much makeup we get on the shape brush with the same pressure that I got this much makeup with the buff brush. And this is how you get that different level of coverage. Now, I want you to press on from here. So we're gonna tap and we're gonna press. Once you have put down a color corrector, you no longer want to swirl or sweep. It's honestly always best and most effective to just stipple, which is this pressing motion, your makeup on. It will give you more of a flawless look, whether you're doing light coverage or full coverage. This will disperse the product better, always allow you to use the least amount of product over the largest area. I'm simply gonna repeat that process until I'm happy with the level of coverage. So press, tap, blend it over the largest surface area that you can. And then you can always go back in for more if you want more coverage, but you'll see the difference that we're creating one little press at a time. And as a reminder, I'm putting this everywhere that I want coverage and anywhere that I color corrected. So this is going on top of this area where I had that rosacea, acne scarring, the redness on my chin. It's a combo. If I don't have that discoloration to cover up, I can put this right on and it will give me the appropriate level coverage for my natural skin tone. I am gonna be a little bit picky around my eyes. Heavy deposits of makeup on texture are only going to emphasize that texture. So I'm gonna go back to my finger. And again, if you're somebody who doesn't like to touch their face, or you just prefer a tool to use there, either the detail brush or the blend brush has that small end that will pick up less product and allow you to get into those smaller areas, like around the eyes. But we are gonna use our perfector. We do have a little catch-all here, a little safety net, so that if you ever feel like you have too much makeup, it's too heavy, too cakey, too tacky, we got you. Now I'm gonna look, is there anywhere else that I want a little bit more coverage? So I'm just pressing on a little bit more in these areas where I have acne scarring. Now I'm gonna take the small end of the buff brush to apply my contour. And I'm gonna do that same pressing motion. Remember, your contour is typically a little bit drier. So if you need to tap on a little bit there to make sure that you get product on, that's absolutely fine. And I'm gonna be strategic. Top of my ear, follow my cheekbone, and I'm gonna hold this on an angle. I don't want it to be super wide. So I'm going to use this edge to kind of stamp it on. I'm gonna go top of my ear to the outer corner of my eye, and I'm gonna start light-handed. Because this brush picks up a lot of product, I'm just tapping to make sure that I have to do minimal work to blend it out. Okay, let's go to the other side. And again, I'm using the side, okay, like the knife edge of the brush, so that I have control, so that my stripe doesn't start out really wide, and I can just press from the top of the ear to the outer corner of the eye. As this starts to sit on the face, it's gonna warm up, making blending very, very simple. So I'm just gonna give it a second. We have our cheekbones done. Probably have a little bit more on the other side, so I'm gonna add a little bit here. And you can see we're already starting to get this sculpted look to the face, getting our cheekbones lifted. And now I'm gonna grab that small side and start to apply around the forehead. Tap and press. I'm gonna stay away from this temple area. As we start to age, we start to get a recession there oftentimes. And remember, with 3D foundation, we're playing the game of light and dark. Dark recedes, which means it pulls back. So if something is already hollow, we don't wanna make it more hollow. So I'm just gonna leave that space alone. So I'm just coming around the perimeter of my forehead, and now I'm gonna pull this up into the hairline. Into the hairline where you see a little bit of a receding hairline there, kind of darken that up. And now I'm just gonna tap this edge, kind of pull down a teeny bit, only to diffuse that edge. I don't wanna overblend it or it's gonna be gone, and then I'm gonna have to like start over. I'm gonna tap back in. Now I'm gonna go underneath my jawline. I'm starting at the back of my ear. I'm gonna chisel out the jawline, help mask jowls, pull down the neck. Get underneath this divot here, pull down, tap in, behind the ear, going underneath the jawline, but right underneath, not too far this way, you won't see that magic, right here, and then pull down the neck. I think this brush is very hard to nose contour with, so if I'm gonna do a nose contour with this, and I'm only using one brush, I am gonna put this on my finger, tap them together, and now I'm gonna hold my fingers together in between my eyes and slide this down the bridge of the nose. I'm gonna fluff this up into the eyebrow, tap a little bit more on my finger, and come underneath right here. And I'm going on the top of the bridge of the nose so that my nose looks slimmer. If I want my nose to look wider, then I would drag those on the sides of the bridge of the nose. I'm also gonna put a little bit on my finger, and this will create just a subtle little contour under the lip. The buff brush itself is probably a little dense to contour under the lip. You'll have a large deposit of product there. And the last thing we want is to look like muddy under the lip. We are literally cruising right along. We've done our color corrector, we've put our main shade on, we are done with contour, and now it's time to brighten it. And I'm gonna use a combination of the small end and my finger. Anywhere that I am textured, I'm gonna use my finger. And I like to use my middle finger because it's not like this is a really strong finger. This one, not so much. So it almost forces you to be a little bit more gentle. And here's what I'm doing. I'm going underneath this eye, like this little eye bag, this little pocket right here, and I'm going down the side of the nose. You need to go down the side of the nose because that is the other half of your nose contour. I'm going underneath that eye bag to avoid putting a lot of a light and bright product on a very textured area. Now, I'm even gonna clean up my eyeshadow a little bit by like flicking up here. We want our eyeshadow to go corner of the brow to the corner of the eye. So I'm just using my brightener, kind of dual purpose here. Remember how we talked about darkness recedes, it pulls back? That's why I avoid this temple area. Since it's already sunk in a little bit, now I'm putting my brightener there because if dark recedes, light comes forward. So it adds a little bit of volume. And I'm using what's left on my finger to connect the brightener that's right here with the brightener that's right here and create brightness under the eye without emphasizing texture. I'm gonna do the same on this side. Out here, clean up that eyeshadow. Down the side of the nose, underneath the eye. And that reminds me, I never blended my contour. We'll do that next. That's the cool thing about cream. Like, this isn't gonna dry down. I can work with it in an hour from now if I wanted to. Which is why, like, you could go to work and come back and want to like glam up your makeup a little bit and you never have to start over. Now remember, I'm going a little bit more heavy-handed than I would on a day when I just want a natural look because we are going more full coverage. But this is also a very textured area for me, so I'm using my finger. I'm gonna go down the nose contour strips because again, nose contour is your contour lines and hugging the contour lines with your brightener. If you wanted more full coverage with that, okay, you could tap and you could apply more anywhere that you wanted it. Just be cautious in those highly textured areas that you don't deposit too much to start with. It's always easier to build up than it is to remove. This is still my brightener. We brighten in the T-zone, underneath the eye area, and down the center of the face. Now let's actually blend the contour. So I'm gonna go right back to my blend brush, small end, and all I'm gonna do, it's already on. With contour, we always want to lift. We never wanna bring things down. So I'm just gonna flick this up and diffuse this a little bit. Literally, because this brush is so dense, just by touching it, see the difference? That slight amount, such little pressure, I can diffuse that top line. The other thing that will make sure that all of our makeup is diffused and blended really well is gonna be our perfector, and that's our next step. I have good coverage. I've used my color corrector, my main shade, my contour, and my brightener. That is my set of 4 colors that make up my foundation so that it's 3-dimensional, so that I still have youthful looking skin with dimension. However, it feels a little heavy to me. This is where the perfector comes in. It's gonna do 2 things. Most important, it's going to remove excess. So anywhere that you layer, and again, in my opinion, to get medium to full coverage, you have to layer in your discolored areas or you're not gonna like the finish. But anywhere that you layer, so under eyes, right? And what it's gonna do is it's gonna remove, see that little bit of excess there? And that's what's gonna keep the product from sitting in my fine lines and wrinkles or ever feeling too heavy, too cakey, anything like that. I can still get really good coverage and a skin-like finish because of this tool. So areas that I layered, I perfected. I'm also going to perfect, pounce, 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 anywhere that I wanna make sure my lines are blended. A big one being my nose contour. Make sure we blend areas that we brightened. And that's it. Now we have, in my opinion, a very skin-like finish with very good coverage. At this point, you could go back in and say, is there anything else that I want to add coverage to before I go into my finishes like bronzer, illuminator, and lip and cheek? For me, I feel very good about the coverage and it still looks natural. You always want to use your perfector before you go in to bronzer, lip and cheek, and illuminator, because those are all sheer products that don't provide coverage. And if you pounce too aggressively with this on those types of products, the sheer products, it's gonna pull them right off. So that's why we used our perfector when we did. Now, in an ideal world, I would grab my blush and bronzer brush and finish up my entire look with that one brush. But since we're teaching one brush application today, I'm gonna show you how to use this brush, and this is your blending tool to apply your bronzer, your lip and cheek, and your illuminator. So we'll just go to the big end. I'm gonna tap this into my bronzer, and I'm gonna go into the areas where I would normally get a little bit of a sunburn, where I would have more of a sun-kissed glow after being out in the sun. It's basically where your face sticks out the farthest, so that high point of your forehead, this high point of your cheekbone, you could go across the nose, the chin, and down the neck. Now, this distributes too much product for like a sun-kissed glowing finish. So you want to grab your perfector sponge and just diffuse it out, because it's not meant to, nor will it give you coverage. So you don't want chunks of your bronzer sitting on your face. You just want it to add a little bit of warm glow. We're gonna do the same thing with our lip and cheek. And I think I'm gonna do a combo. I'm gonna grab the smaller end this time. Let's do a little bit of nude. Make sure I picked up some. I'm gonna go higher up with my nude, hugging that cheekbone. Now I'm gonna grab Summer Love. We're gonna kind of create like a little ombre here. Typically, if I were to use the blush and bronzer brush, I'd be able to diffuse this as I go. But again, perfector. Diffuse it out with your perfector. Light color on the apples of the cheeks, darker color up the contour line. Light color on the apples of the cheeks just to add a little fullness. And now to create some more lift, that nice little ombre effect. And we can do the same thing on the lips. This is nude. This is also when I would grab the multitasker and line my lips. I think I'm gonna cheat and do that so that you can actually see it. Okay, that feels much better. I'm like, we can't have this full coverage makeup look and then have my lips like blend into my face and have no definition whatsoever. So I just grabbed my contour. Your products are so super multi-use. So I used my contour to line my lips. I already had nude, which is this satiny finish, super popular, nude neutral color. And now I'm gonna top it with Summer Love, which is just this sheer glossy pop of a little bit of cooler pink, because I like the hydration so much. I don't love the feeling of matte on my lips. And then we're gonna end this with our illuminator, and today I grabbed Angel Illuminator. Easiest way to apply your illuminator without getting fingerprints or brushstroke lines on your face is with your perfector. So go ahead, squeeze your perfector together. Remember how I said you're never, ever gonna swipe into any of your highlights, your lip and cheek, anything like that? We are gonna swipe into your illuminator. That's the only one. Pick up a generous amount of product, squeeze it together, and now let's hit that highest point and just create a little bit of additional illumination. It gives you kind of that finishing effect, especially with a full coverage look. You can diffuse it out a little bit with your perfector, but you'll just see how beautiful and how glowing that makes your skin. You can then grab your finger and put a little bit down the center of the nose, tip of the nose, and you can put some on the Cupid's bow, and it will make your lip pop a little bit more, make it a little bit bigger. I mean, who doesn't love that? Okay, friends, that is it. our full coverage makeup look, how to get good coverage without being cakey or tacky, all with one brush, and of course our finger and the perfector. Let me know what questions that you have. Again, the beauty of this makeup is you never need to change your products to get different looks. You can simply change your brush and your application style. So it is always just this one compact of customized makeup for you. And if I can help you with a customized color match where you get your personalized shades and your makeup application broken down step by step for you, just comment match below. I would love to help you. And that's it, you guys. We will be back again next week with another brush in our brush series. But until then, I just want to say, as always, thank you guys for being here. We'll see you soon.